Even though I have done this a million times before, every time I learn something.
Yes, it was great, as I was fully expecting, and I'd love more if it was on offer.
I think it's transformative, tapping into their own knowledge, into their own purpose. The possibility is endless.
It's a process of co-creation and co-learning. More of us should be using LS.
LS for Liberating Structure.
It's a wow, like under 60 minutes. It was really a wow.
Thing was a brilliant series, a webinar series that my sister did. She's on the workshop, Henrietta Wilson. She ran a series through SOAS in London. I think they were fortnightly, were they? And they were very, very successful. And there was an appetite afterwards to capture everything. One output going to be an edited book of essays. So that's kind of like the academic capturing what was discussed. But there was also a real appetite to build on the community that Henrietta had pretty much created by bringing together so many people working on a similar subject. So one of the things that was suggested was a Zoom cafe, a virtual cafe. And I was talking to Henrietta about how best to run that, because in an actual cafe, you can take your coffee and talk to who you want to. But in Zoom, it's much harder to have those interactions. And so, of course, I thought of Arvind. Now, Arvind I've known for a few years, and I run a lot of workshops, physical workshops all over the world with youth, children, and adults. And everything I think I know about a successful workshop with a large group of people is through Arvind. His use of liberating structures, for example, has changed the way I work. And so that's why I thought of saying, have you adapted any of this for Zoom, given that we're all spending all our lives on Zoom? And he said, well, actually, I have. But if we have a workshop, I can explain by showing. So that's why we're all here today. And thank you all for joining in.
Thank you, Lydia. Let me also go to my friend Raju Shekharan, who's joining from Bangladesh. Raju, why would you invite not just yourself, but several of your colleagues to be on this call?
Arvind, first of all, thanks for being here, and it's a pleasure. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everybody. I think Lydia said quite a bit of it, actually, Lydia. I think it was very well said, but I was just thinking before this session, Arvind, that Zoom and other such formats, I think we're doing governance, education, health, science, research. I guess the coronavirus, vaccine got developed with a lot of Zoom conferences between various scientists. And, who would have imagined this in the past? Then coming closer to home from the point of view of a corporate situation, I could think of firstly, leadership, that at the top level, casting the shadow of the leader and inspiring around, a message. How do you do that, in this context? Then it comes to the next level of management execution, at the actual getting things done, and how do you collaborate? Then I think there's something which my colleagues who have joined are also particularly keen in is, training, the whole business of training, development, coaching. Suddenly, if you take away that physical spaces and the physical breakout rooms and the charts and, all that goes with it, where you're noting stuff down and somebody speaks, for the team afterwards, we have to do that effectively. And maybe I know you, Arvind, so you'd probably say it can be done more effectively in this format if we put our mind to it. How do we do that? And the last one, I think, is Lydia also alluded to, was in a corporate situation, as in any other situation, that, the esprit de corps, the camaraderie, the kind of cutting the birthday cake on the floor, getting together to celebrate things. I mean, that also has to be replaced, effectively by a format like this. And I think you finished part of the introduction. You also brought in the nickname, which I think only people from that era know, which is the Raju. So that's nice. And I've known you, as you say, 41 years from before you started communication. But, It's been a privilege to see you become a global authority on communication along the way with positive deviation, etc. So it's actually a privilege to attend this session and invite, engage, and liberate participation by using these platforms. That's why we are here, Arvind, and we're looking forward to it. Thank you and greetings to all.
Okay, terrific, Lydia and Raju. And what we did was a structure that we call a celebrity interview. And, we will do things as we go and, learn by doing. So if I had to summarize the philosophy of what we're going to do, and Lydia, you're going to say philosophy can be captured in a story that many of you have heard me share before. Story of Abe Lincoln. He was a tall man. He was also president. He was also commander-in-chief. And there's a story a soldier once who had met him for the first time, shook his hand and then suddenly realized he was very tall. And he said, "Oh, Mr. President, you're tall. How tall are you?" And without batting an eyelid, Lincoln said, "Son, like you, tall enough that my feet reach the ground." Now, most of us measure height in a certain way. And Lincoln's answer, if you read about his life and the fact that he consumed 6 volumes of Euclid's geometry, his answer would become quite apparent to you. And what in essence he is saying is that wisdom or expertise doesn't lie with the tallest, even though that's apparent, doesn't lie with a commander-in-chief, doesn't lie with the president, but is distributed. Wisdom is distributed at the common ground. And so what we are trying to do here is to see if we can take the wisdom that exists on this common screen and find a way to give its utterance. And if we do that by distributing participation, as opposed to me just talking to you, that'll stop very quickly. Then we create an environment that is inclusive, that is engaging, and maybe even fun. So now we are going to get to work. If you have a piece of paper in front of you, we'd like you to take it and to divide it into 4 quadrants. Yeah, and I'll tell you what we will do. Okay, what we are going to be doing is we'll begin with a spiral journal, and it is always good, especially when we are all in different places, as is the case when you do Zoom meetings. People are in different locations. Calmly sort of preparing for the work ahead is quite important. So this work is inspired by Linda Berry, and here's what I'd like you to do. Divide your page into quarters or quadrants and start drawing the slowest, tightest spiral that you can in the middle. And I'm giving you an example of that. So without lifting your pen, smelling the paper and the ink, holding the pen calmly, draw a continuous spiral as slowly and tightly as possible. And this is to bring your presence to your piece of paper and for you to calmly prepare for what we are going to do today. As you're doing, you may keep your eye on the screen. In the first quadrant, I invite you to respond to this question. And the question is, I am, and see if you can come up with multiple responses. And while you're doing that, know that there is a quadrant 2, and the quadrant 2 is, I am here because. And again, go ahead and come up with more than one response. Yeah, and I'll give you 2 minutes total, so that's also in silence. And as you respond to I am and I'm here because, I'm going to do it quickly. Yeah, you will go into a process that we call impromptu networking. I'll put you in groups of 2 where you will then share what you have in quadrant 1 and 2. So we will do 2 rounds of something that we call impromptu networking. And what that basically means is you will have about 3 minutes in your breakout room to share with the other person. So don't be bashful. You can begin by saying, I am Raju or Shekhar or Lydia or Samya or Gabi or Alonzo or Ru. And I am here because. Go.
Department?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I teach speech, but it's because we are actually in the humanities and foreign language department. We don't have a communication department, but
oh, I see.
Anyway.
Yeah.
So, well, that's so. We happen to be in the same state. That's so.
Yeah,
funny.
that's great. Yeah. I mean, I'd like to continue our conversation, but maybe we need to.
You're back here. We're gonna do one.
Hey! That's so fast.
That was quick.
Yeah, that was quick.
That was quick. Okay, we'll do one more round. Go.
That's great. I am Vanessa Obinua Inchi, and I am currently in Ohio.
And what do you do?
I'm a master's student in communication and development.
So this fits right into what you're learning.
Yes. Yes, indeed. Would you like to continue?
Yeah. So why am I here? I'm here just because I'm curious. I think there is so much material out there on how to conduct Zoom calls, what can we do, what's right, what's wrong. Purely out of curiosity, I'm here. That's why I'm here.
Yeah, I agree with that. Mine is similar to yours.
So I am a creator, a learner, extremely grateful, and stuck in the physical sense, just in lockdown in the UK.
Yes, that's true. You guys have been in lockdown for a little while, haven't you?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Well, we're sending love and support.
Yes, and love and support.
You proceed. I'll just, this is snooping.
All right. So I am here because I want to learn from everyone that I meet, and I want to add more positive communication in my life. And I want to, spread more joy.
Excellent. Excellent.
I'm here because I want to positively engage with others and want to sort of collaborate and build and progress regardless of whatever issues they may be, that we may be facing.
All right. So now you're going to go to quadrant 3. Now, this is a thoughtful exercise. What I'm asking you to do is, what did spiral journaling, use of quadrants, and breakout rooms make possible? This is pretty open-ended. You're not allowed to ask any clarifications. And you got about 2-3 minutes to think about that and see if you can, what did it make possible for you? Pay attention to all of those invitations. And this time you will go into a group of 4, and each of you will discuss your answer, your response to quadrant 3. Keep working, keep thinking. All right, so you're going to be in a group of 4. Begin.
You have the control to break rooms for people to go and speak. And you get time to share and control. And as always, you're having the control of the whole meeting. And using this for teaching, it gives you the ability to divide large groups. Right now, we have a lot of people in the other meeting. So I find it pretty useful for that. Sometimes you even expect everything to be at the laptop online, and using a sheet of paper, dividing everything gives you time to think and to share in a different way instead of just typing everything online. And that's what I'm getting from this.
And I was just thinking as Estefania was listing, I said, oh, I have the same things to say. So largely, I think what the spiral journaling did for me was, I am sometimes, I multitask too much. I am always on the Zoom call, on the mail, and on my phone at the same time. So spiraling just helped me disengage, right? And just focus on what's the task at hand. As for the breakout rooms, I think I was speaking to the lady earlier whom I met, saying that, it's a bit like speed dating. I'm always curious whom am I going to meet. So it just keeps me more engaged.
In a large group, sometimes many voices can be lost. And so this way you can hear at least a few selected views, learn about it. And then as you go into your next breakout, you're able to either build upon those that you have and start to really formulate some different ways of thinking.
I'm just snooping here. Very good. My friend Melissa, it must be 7 a.m. in Vancouver.
You're the only one I'd wake up for, Arvind.
Oh, sweet, my sister. And
I think for me, all the three processes of, spiraling, writing in the quadrants and in the breakout rooms, it firstly helped me connect with my own self and then with the people whom I was interacting with. It's always welcoming. I think the spiraling exercise particularly helped me to sort of, focus on why I was here. And then, further putting it down in the quadrants actually helped me to pen down my purpose and solidify, what exactly am I here to learn. So that was my takeaway from the entire exercise.
All right, you are back and you have survived this. All right, so you cannot have a session and we have 19 minutes remaining in which the professor doesn't seize the opportunity of being a professor. So now this is going to be lecture. 4 or 5 minutes. And the reason why this is going to be a lecture is to show you the contrast between lecturing or managing a discussion and what you have been doing, and also making some sense of what we've done together. So we're just going to do a little analysis. So I'm talking, you're not doing anything, you're just listening now, of what we have done so far. And I want to point out that whenever you do any kind of meeting, whether it's real face-to-face, whether you're in a classroom or a boardroom or a virtual meeting such as this, no need to write down these things. I'd much rather have you, sort of grasp what we are doing, and I'll send you the slides, no worries. Every meeting has 5 components, at least 5 components. There's the space, the physical arrangement of being in a room or, being on a screen. Participation, who's included. Configurations, what's the size, composition of groups. Time allocation, and the most important one is purpose. So let's look at what happens when you have a presentation. Much like, you've got a sage on stage like me talking to you. Well, the space is what it is. Yeah, I'm talking, you're on a screen. Participation, well, there's none. I'm the boss, you are listening. In fact, my invitation to you is to shut up and listen. No? Configuration is simply one to all. I'm in charge, sage on stage, microphone is with me. There are no configurations. It's one to all. Time allocation, well, for the time, the next 5 minutes, I have all the time, right? You have none. And what's the purpose? Well, there has to be a purpose when somebody is talking. So I guess my purpose is to give you a little analysis of what we have done so far. Purpose is key, and we'll tell you why. Similar things happen when you do a managed discussion. Now, what we did or tried to do, we tried to distribute participation, but also at the same time, as you can see, I'm lecturing. No? So you can lecture, you can do a presentation, but you can also find ways to distribute participation. And when you distribute participation, well, you create for stuff that is inclusive and engaging and fun, as these little kids seems to be having. Now, we did, I think I was overhearing somebody said, when we did this, it felt like I was speed dating. I think, Loveleen, it was you who was sharing with your group. And yes, we were speed dating. But I'd like you to look at these 5 elements and see how they are different. In terms of space, face-to-face or, on screen, you're with another person. Participation, everybody who's on this meeting, 55 of you, were participating at once, at the same time, and you all had equal time. Configurations, in the first 2 rounds, you did pairs. In the last round, you did a quad. And you were sometimes with strangers, yeah? Because usually most people talk to people whom they know. We gave you a certain time allocation. We said 3 minutes total, and we'll do 2 rounds of speed networking. And then in the quad, we said you've got 6 minutes, and we said focus on quadrant 3. Quadrant 1, 2, and 3 is the key thing, because that's the purpose. Why am I having my meeting? There's no reason why you need to begin with I am or why am I here. You could begin with what are some problems we are facing in the realm of customer service? Quadrant 1. Quadrant 2 can be what the hell can we do about them? Quadrant 3 can be what am I going to do? You get the idea? The quadrants are blank pieces of a liberating structure, depending on what your purpose is. So I know several of my current and former students are on the call. We often begin our class by saying, okay, what's the key things that you have learned from the readings? Quadrant 1, what questions do you have from the readings? Quadrant 2, yeah, and you can decide what quadrant 3 and 4 can be. So purpose is critical. So what seems like a silly exercise of speed networking, really, depending on what you choose to put on the quadrants, can create the conditions for a discussion to be more meaningful and to be inclusive and to be engaging of all. Now, this also means that preparation is key. Before you go into a Zoom call, maybe you can have the participants create answers to quadrant 1 and 2 even before they join the Zoom meeting. You get the idea? Which means people do work in advance. And if not, they can certainly work while you're on the call. Sometimes I think there's value in having silence and having people bring in their best thoughts. Okay, you're with me. So now we are going to quadrant 4, and quadrant 4 is simply how can I use what I have learned in my meetings, in my classroom, in my virtual interactions. Yeah, that's it. You get about 2 minutes, and then we'll put you in a group of 4 again. That process is called a 1-4, and we'll do a all. So 1 is, you're the one person working on the quadrant, then you get into a group of 4 working with 4 people, and then I'll show you what the all is. So I'll break you out into rooms, and you'll get about 4 minutes in a group. So a minute per person. See, it's all time allocation. You connect your purpose with the time allocation. You share with others. Wonderful. Terrific. Okay, we go open all rooms, 4 minutes, and just go.
Nice to meet you again, Mr. Shikhar.
Pleasure. Oh, yeah, you were in the class when I was there with Arvind, right? Oh, yes.
Correct,
yes,
correct. And nice to meet you all too.
Hi.
So the first thing that struck me, and I want to be quick, this spiral, I've decided to use this spiral not only in programs or meetings, but also in my head. Because I think if I'm doing work with my phone and, I'm going to turn to speak to my wife, I want to do the spiral in my head, to calm, focus. When I'm calling my son in Oxford, do a spiral. Focus, so I think that's very important to kind of bring a focus. Then the whole idea of this simultaneous, everybody spending the same time, everybody interacting is simply extraordinary. I can see it very clearly in the learning development training program side. I'm struggling, and that might just also be, the resistance to change on how I will do it for an organized meeting where I'm leading my, Monday management meeting. I'm thinking that through. I think there's some things I can do, but it's more difficult. So I'll stop there. But there's just extraordinary value.
So for me, I think the preparation beforehand could also be helpful, especially if there's a lot of people and you just want to get things going and see how things turn. So preparation beforehand, and then keeping students engaged as a key, because if there's a lot of people, you just don't want to do all the talking. And with what we also engage in make us remember things. Like when we all leave here, at least we remember the spiraling. Remember, Dr. Singhal said this, but it would be like the spiraling first in what you felt while you were spiraling. That's it.
So I think spiraling was a big one. I think it's a big one for all of us. It just helps you center, focus on what's on hand. The other thing, which is, it sounds simple, but it's really the big one. I think intuitively we all know what we want to get out of a meeting. The structure around it and actually pen it down takes a lot of effort to say what is the purpose, what am I trying to get out of this meeting, how will I get out of it, and so on. As simple as it sounds, not always.
All right, we have 2 more minutes. We'll close at 9. So you're saying, really? All of you go to the chat function. And Sergio, this is the one for all. So, you filled out quadrant 4, you talked to, so that was you, 1. And then you talked to 4 people. There was a group of 4, that's the 4. And now you will, through chat, share with everybody. What's the one thing that you're taking away from these conversations? Go to chat. Type it out. Don't hit return until I tell you. So Zoom is a wonderful way to capture things as you go. We're just introducing you to the notion of chat waterfall. Okay, go. Oh my God, look at this waterfall. Just in summary, we began with a little celebrity interview as opposed to me introducing Lydia or me introducing Raju. They, given the purpose, that's a liberating structure. Minimum structure, maximum liberation. Did spiral journaling. We did use of quadrants. The purpose is critical. What is it that you want to do? We did speed networking when you were in a group of 2, especially if you want to know whom you're going to be meeting and open more widely. Then we did 2 rounds of speed networking. Then we did the 1-4, and now we did the 1-for-all with a chat waterfall. Yeah. So we've gone beyond. So in 58 minutes, all of you have contributed to the wisdom of each person. So thank you for joining. This is a mini appetizer. If you want a full course, I can do a webinar for 2 hours where you can, there are about 3 dozen of these structures that you can use. Now called upon to design more meetings than actually to participate in meetings. So love you. Thank you.
Thanks, Arvind.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you.
Gracias. Muchas gracias. Thank you so much.
This has
been really wonderful.
Thank you, Karen. Thank you.
Lovely.
I'm glad you joined us, Pat.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh,
Priscilla, nice.
Even though I have done this a million times before, every time I learn something, every time the energy of the people lifts me. And now I have so many friends in this group that I knew somebody to blow kisses to in every breakout session. I mean, it was just like I was home with family.
Yes, it was great, as I was fully expecting, but just as brilliant as you always are. And I'd love more if it was on offer. I think a lot of it, in my experience with Liberating Structures with you before, a lot of it is observing you in action, is the actual doing rather than telling, and also the experience of doing it, of just planning a workshop and seeing what comes out from different groups and different people. Then you take it on, don't you, to the next group.
Henrietta, we want to hear from you.
Absolutely the other way around. It's been absolutely brilliant, and I thank you very much, and I also thank Lydia for getting us together like this. I've learned so much from doing it, and in one of the breakout groups, I reflected about how a year ago I hadn't heard of Zoom. None of this had happened, and then suddenly in March everything was on Zoom, and it was absolutely miraculous that suddenly we were organizing events that were global and including people in different time zones, but it also was kind of awkward. So you demonstrated some really good ways of making the technology work better socially, and I really liked how clear you were about what we were doing, how long it would take. You stuck to time, which is something I find really hard to do. And you gave us tasks that were manageable, so that when we came to talk in the small groups, we all had something to say. So that was all absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, really nice. As you know, this was always a question that I had, how to take liberating structures into the virtual. And well, it works pretty nicely. It was a fun way to end my working day. So thanks for that.
I think it's transformative. The way people get to experience conversations and connections that they've never done before is incredible, and they do so in the same time they have otherwise. So we're not asking for anything more from the participants, but only tapping into their own knowledge, into their own purpose, into their motivation, and creating a space to reflect. So we get to use liberating structures with design thinking, with positive deviance, with storytelling, using data sciences for reflections, for creating strategies. And so there are so many ways in which you can use these structures. The possibility is endless. But I know Pallavi would love to add something.
I think everything what Shanu said is absolutely on point. And I think today, again, when we were into different breakout rooms, I realized that it's a process of co-creation and co-learning. And, whenever you interact with people, you're actually building off each and every person's thoughts and views. I think that's exactly what happened when Lee and I and a couple of more people were in the same breakout room. We resonated a lot with, what one another said. I think it's fantastic, and more of us should be using LS.
LS for liberating structure.
I can't, I'm reflecting on this experience. And of course, there's many of us who's done a version of this or that, for teaching, for conferencing, for workshops. I'm in awe of the way you facilitated, this 1 hour session. It was, you did it masterfully and also effortlessly. And it's like, I try to do like a breathing, exercise or like a mindful exercise just to bring everybody kind of I call the arriving, right? And you just did with the spiral at the center of the journal in like less than a minute. I mean, that's the level of your signature of how LS can be, kind of played with, but also implemented in such a beautiful way to engage everyone in such a short amount of time. But like really, as you were saying, minimal structure, but maximum liberation. And I thought it was amazing to see that. It's also magnetic and it's magical. So I mean, just the combination of that, it's a wow, like under 60 minutes. It was really a wow.
Oh, thank you so much.
Okay, see you all. Bye.